Hi guys, it's me again. Sorry about the delay in filming. We have had a very exciting summer indeed. Today we are going to talk about flying with your owner trained assistance dog here in the UK. Now then, this one is a really complicated one at the moment because when assistance dogs fly, it's a bit of a grey area at the moment, okay? And if you are a assistance dog owner that has qualified your assistance dog with a charity coming under AD UK, or ADI, or the International Guide Dogs Federation, or something like that, you can fly pretty much with, in theory with not too much hassle, because although in the UK assistance dogs are protected under the Equalities Act, and all airlines should take all assistance dogs, at the moment, in the Civil Aviation Authority, we have something called the Civil Aviation Authority. Now, it used to be, from about sort of 2007-ish, that only those with certifications or qualifications from charities that come under ADI or the International Guide Dogs Federation. I think just people didn't realise that you could own a train almost, and last year that actually changed. On the 29th of June 2017, the Civil Aviation Authority issued a amendment to their notice for safety during flights, dealing with disabled people who are assistance dog handlers, and that was actually to change this to allow for individually trained assistant dogs, or what we call them as owner trained, or also organisations that aren't part of ADI or the International Guide Dogs Federation, because there are some brilliant, really reputable organisations in the UK that just don't choose to go under those organisations because they might be outside assessed by other less well-known organisations as well. So instead, it's basically to make sure that everyone with an assistance dog that can prove that they're an assistance dog and trained to mitigate a handler's disability can be allowed on the plane. However, there isn't any sort of consistency really. I mean, we have been really lucky because we actually flew from Birmingham International Airport to Belfast City and back with FlyBe, and they were absolutely awesome right from the get-go. I was quite worried about flying with Betsy, not because I didn't feel that she could cope with the journey. She's, as much as dogs can be, quite stable and not fussed by travel. She is brilliant. She's amazing. She's, as I've told people before, she's gone on so many different modes of transport. It is hilarious that even some people haven't gone on. And so she really wasn't my concern with her like training or behaviour, because I knew she would pretty much take it in her stride, because she is like that. She is very much like, yeah, I can deal with this, and it takes a lot to sort of floor her with that kind of stuff. So basically, I was a bit worried at first, because I know friends that have tried to travel before with different airlines such as like EasyJet or Ryanair, and they haven't had much success, because A lot of people don't realise that under the Civil Aviation Authority guidelines that were set at the time, that dogs, assistance dogs, can travel in cabin with their owner. However, they must be able to provide, individually trained dogs must be able to provide other documentation if they don't have an ID book for, say, an organisation or something like that. So now the trouble is with this other documentation, it doesn't actually state what this other documentation needs to be. So I sort of went completely OTT. I sort of gave them every sort of single bit of proof that Betsy was going to not pose a danger as much as possible to myself, other people, or the cabin crew, or anything like that. And firstly, I was crazy about it. I was absolutely wanted to get things sorted absolutely as much in advance as I could for the very first time. So she says this as like a dog just wanders around. I got a letter from my doctor to explain my conditions, to explain how Betsy was vital to come in cabin with me, how she mitigated my disability, and how she's considered a auxiliary aid. And luckily my doctor is fantastic. He's really trying to help me as much as possible when it comes to stuff like this, because he knows about physical disabilities, and he's very savvy with them. Now the other thing was that I sent to them as well, which I sent them loads of stuff to prove that we weren't going to be an issue. I'm a professional dog trainer, so I actually submitted my Institute of Modern Dog Trainers membership card as well, and membership number, to basically reassure them that I, as an owner trainer, I myself had been trained to a good enough standard to train my own dog, basically. That I wasn't just any old Joe Blogs thinking I don't want to pay for my dog to be held in a hold, so I'll put a vest on it and hope for the best. Can't do that on an airline. Larvis one actually manages to do that for genuine, proper, legit teams. It is absolutely hard. It is so hard to get an owner trained dog on a plane. However, FlyBe were absolutely fantastic about it. So I submitted my membership card to say that I was, a legit trainer, that I used ethical methods, that, I could read her body language, etc. So the other thing that I submitted was from another dog training colleague that was independent of me, was independent of also the IMDT. She actually trains with the Jean Donaldson Academy, so a very, very, very respected dog training organisation as well. And she was able to write as a reference to say, Betsy's trained to a very high standard, that I am actually very good at reading her. I wouldn't put her into any situations that, she wouldn't be able to cope with, basically. And the other thing that I also submitted was Bet's Good Citizen Awards. Now, as much as I rant on them about how sometimes they're not really consistent and how they're assessed, people do tend to know about them. So I submitted her Puppy Foundation and I submitted her Bronze Award. So I submitted them because hopefully it would just show she was of a reasonably good temperament, that I would have my head screwed on, wasn't going to let her run riot, cause a mess, that kind of stuff. And the other thing that I submitted was the fact that She's on the activity register as well, more as a proof of microchip type thing than anything else, to prove her identity almost. The other thing that I also submitted was the booklet from, I think it's the Equalities Advice Service, that explains all about different assistance dogs and how owner-trained assistance dogs are, you know, completely legit, as well as they've been trained to mitigate a handler's disability that has a significant impact on their day-to-day life. Then, you know, you're covered, etc. I also submitted some documentation from the Department of Transport, I think it was, or Travel, that explained that also owner trainers are also completely fine. They are, you know, considered proper assistance dogs. I also submitted the actual CAA flight, the actual notice amendment, and I highlighted the bits that they needed to look at. So the fact that she was individually trained, and also the other documentation bit as well. So she's just being silly. She's rolling on the floor next to me, and belly rub, aren't we? So I submitted all of that, plus different parts of the law and legislation to basically say we're legit, basically. We are, you know, we're not gonna run riot, she's not gonna savage anyone on the plane, and we had a really, really good experience. Now, I wasn't sure how we would get through security, because Bets actually, from when she was younger, had a bit of a freak accident with a RTC, and she actually broke her leg, so she does actually have a metal plate inside of her leg. So I was a bit worried that she would like set off the alarms with that, so I brought a picture of her x-ray with me just in case that, you know, they thought, oh my god, you know, has that dog got like a bomb in her or something like that, which was, you know, where would you even put it, you know. But anyhow, going back to the airport, we got to the airport. What I found really, really useful was at Birmingham Airport, they have a brilliant team for those that have need special assistance called OCF, and they have actually recently had training on how to deal with people with assistance dogs and also autistic spectrum disorder. So they were absolutely fantastic. They walked us, me and my friend, from literally when we came to check in, before we checked in, everything they helped us with, walked alongside us, just making sure we were okay, that we could get to the places we needed to be. Yeah, so OCF were brilliant. We actually didn't, we phoned up in advance before Christmas actually, when I just booked my ticket, and Betsy was checked in as ZZ/Protect, which if you don't know, in flight geeky terms, that means that she was given a extra seat. The woman on the phone, when I basically checked her in, and said, you know, I've got assistance dog with me, what do I need to do? She asked, how much does she weigh? Now, I said, well, she's probably going to be about 20 kilos, and so normally what's expected is that your dog can sit in between your legs or lie down in between your legs, and or underneath your legs, or the seat in front of you, or something like that, to keep them out of the way, so they're not going into the aisle where the trolleys are, or where people walk up and down, that they're nicely, neatly packed away, if you were. So I wasn't sure how tight the space would be, and the woman wanted to make sure that our flight was, the first flight was a good positive experience for her. So she actually booked us another seat free of charge. So that was a really, really good thing for us, because although with one seat she probably would have just got away with it, it probably wouldn't have been very comfortable for her. So the fact that she had two seats for her to lie down with really, really did help. Allowed her to sort of stretch out and not worry about it too much. So when we went to the airport, we went through security. It was quite funny because I just said, look, my dog's got a metal plate in the leg. I'm not sure whether, you know, what you want me to do, because I've got an x-ray picture if you want me to prove it, kind of thing, or, you know, ring her vet or anything. And to be honest, I was really surprised, because they just waved us through. We're like, no, don't worry about it. We went through, they turned off the x-ray scanner because they said, look, if she's got something like that, she might set it off. And also that they just gave her a pat down to check that, you know, she wasn't hiding anything on her. And so we kept all our gear on, which I was really surprised about, because we'd obviously practiced like doing it without her harness, without her vest, without her collar, etc. And I think it's because she does have a metal plate, so they thought even if they took all of that off her, that, you know, she's still got that and could set it off, kind of thing. I think she was actually swabbed, I think, at some point as well, and go through airline security. Make sure your dog's being happy, just, you know, patted down, make sure that they're okay, being fussed over, that being okay, having their paws lifted up, their tail checked out, their underneath their vest, their head, etc. She loved it. She utterly loved it, because she loved the fuss. She was like, oh, please, please, stroke me, and it was like, oh my god, I'm allowed to break the rules, because normally when she has a vest on, it's like, no talky, no touchy, you know, don't distract her, she's working, etc. So she was like, oh my god, I get to break the rules, I get to wiggly and get strokes off everyone. So she wasn't fussed by that at all. She loved it. When it came through me going through security, what happened is I left her with my OCF person, and basically I just said, look, it's her first time going through security, she might, you know, wiggle a little bit because I'm at the other side, you know, just make a fuss of her, try and make everything a good positive experience. So she's got nothing to worry about if she goes through next time. And, you know, another thing is to prepare your dog for is the conveyor belts as well, because they make a lot of clunking noises. Luckily Bets isn't that sound sensitive, so she didn't really worry about that. I think the thing that she just wanted to do was get back to me when she was held at the other end, but we had practiced her being held by another person as well, to make sure that, you know, I went through the body scanner, which was hilarious, because obviously you have to stick your you know, stick your hands out, and they probably get to see all, you know, the poor people are probably like traumatized for life after seeing, you know, all my wobbly bits. But anyway, yeah, we won't talk about that. But yeah, then she came through. Now on the way back, she came through, on the way to, you know, I don't think she was scanned or anything because, you know, they just had to walk through the body scanner, but then on the way back she was turning, they wanted her to turn both ways through it, so I don't know whether they actually might have scanned her, but I think it was just a quick sort of part of their checks. I'm not sure whether it was part of it, but yeah, yeah, so that was really good. We're at the front of the queue. We asked to pre-board because, again, I'm not great about waiting in queues. I'm, you know, and I don't want to accidentally knock into someone when I'm standing up from being wobbly. And also, it's her first time, so I want to make it a, you know, a good positive experience for her, that she's not just waiting around for ages as well. I've got to think of her because obviously her welfare comes first. So we were actually allowed to get on first. We're the first person on the plane either time, and we found our seats. They would check that the seating arrangements for us was okay. They said any problems, you know, we could be moved to make sure that it was easier for us, that, you know, it wasn't a massive issue. And to be honest, as soon as I put her blanket down, because I use her blanket when she travels, because people probably know the story about when she once got bubble gum stuck to her, so I'm now really paranoid when she lies down anywhere, so I bring a blanket with her to make sure A, you know, she's got somewhere comfy, and B, she doesn't get loads of crap stuck to her stomach. Because, you know, no one wants to get, you know, bubble gum stuck to their stomach, especially on a flight. And so what else happened? Yeah, so she settled down. She was really, really good. She settled on a blanket. She went straight to sleep as soon as we got on the plane. She was out, you know. And then what happened was, when the plane was taxiing, she was fine. Then we took off. She was fine, and then just as the plane sort of dropped and your stomach drops at the same time, that was the point where she opened her eyes and sort of licked her lips like, what's going on, human? What's, you know, this normal? And that was the only time she sort of looked even vaguely sort of unsure, and but then she went straight back to sleep, as if to say, oh, okay, this is normal now, this is all part of the plan. Human doesn't look worried, she's not panicking, yay, I got a sweetie, I'll go back to sleep. And that's what she did for the whole entirety of the flight. She just fell asleep. She was utterly brilliant. Then on the way down, when we landed, just before we landed, because she was asleep, I actually woke her up, because what I didn't want her to do was to have a massive shock in deep sleep and then be like, oh, what the hell is going on? So I actually woke her up. I fed her a couple of treats, just saying, no, just back to land, just acted happy voice. The whole way down I was like, yay, we're landing. And I'm sure the passengers near me probably thought I was like some sort of crazy lady, but I was just like, yay, happy voice, not panicking, that kind of thing. And she was completely fine again. She went back to sleep, you know, and but then I was like, she went back to sleep as soon as we landed, and then it was time to get our baggage at the overhead luggage compartment, and that was quite funny, but I felt really bad, but I can laugh about it. But we were about to get out to get our overhead luggage. This cabin crew was helping us, because my friend is quite short. She will kill me for saying that. And also I wasn't really confident about getting my luggage out and not dropping it, and you know, dropping it everywhere on someone's head. So I asked that, you know, we could have some help, and I might as well have just done it by myself, because she got my rucksack, the air hostess got my rucksack, and she just, you know, she accidentally dropped it on Betsy with all the stuff in, and Bets was just standing up at this point, and she did not bat an eyelid. So I was really proud of her, because, you know, if that was me, I would be like, what the hell? Why did you just do this? And she just stood there, she wagged her tail, and it actually made me feel bad, so that just shows how much I drop stuff. She wasn't startled, she was like, yeah, this is part of life, human does this. But after that, I was very aware that I didn't want to make that a bad experience. So again, when I got off the plane, when we got into the terminal, I said to the cabin crew that, you know, you can make a fuss of her with the vest on, because again, I wanted it to be a positive experience. I didn't want that to freak her out about planes, just in case she thought, oh my god, I don't want to get on the plane, there's going to be like crazy flying missiles and dropping on me, this isn't good. And she was absolutely fine. They loved having the excuse to stroke her, sort of thing. On the way back, very much the same happened. She slept through the entirety of the flight, was not, you know, bothered by it at all. But it was quite funny, because at the end I explained the situation to the cabin crew to say, you know, she was owner trained, and this was actually after when lots of people had said, oh, I didn't realise there was a dog on the flight, and oh look, assistance dog, or, you know, and